My name is Ian Walsh, and this is The Moment Money Matters, joined with a very unique individual in the Philadelphia and Eastern Pennsylvania housing market, Kevin Gillen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Kevin, for being on today. Very much appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me, Ian.
So Kevin Gillen I was put in touch with him because his name's getting around pretty well in the Philadelphia investment space and residential space. And Jeremy Bowers said you've got to sit down with Kevin. He is fully versed in the financial models of the market locally, and he put together some really good data that we'll get into in the third episode. But I want to ask a few things because you approach the market way different than any of us. Most of us are in a transaction base in the market. We don't ever take the time, let alone have the study and the background that you do in understanding the data to compile it. So our field, my field, the average realtor, average investor's field, comes from what they do day in and day out, where yours is you are crunching the numbers and seeing the trends. So let me ask you this, Kevin. In our market specifically, I'm looking at your Philadelphia housing price index, but you also have the suburban report. Can you define to everybody what they're looking for if they're going through and trying to find a bubble, whether it's a bubble in this whole area or it's a subsection bubble, which you break down into neighborhoods or areas of the suburbs? Where do you spot a bubble? Like, what's the stuff you look for?
Well, in the economics literature, I'm an economist by trade. We say that identifying a bubble and defining one is actually very easy, but it is very, very difficult to predict when it will pop and how much things will drop afterwards. That's the hard part. The very definition of an asset bubble, and not just housing or real estate, but any asset market, stocks, bonds, pick your commodity or investment, is that prices are out of line with the expected cash flow, discounted back to today. So people have, what a present value equation is, the growth rate that they expect for that the stream of dividends or stream of rental income, what have you, gives a present value that is not realistic, and hence they're paying a price that's much higher than what the actual present discounted value of that revenue stream is. So the definition is pretty easy. In real estate, it's simple. Look at what rents are in the market, take what interest rates are, mortgage rates, things like that. If that do a discounted present value, and if the price that they're asking for is well above what you think rental income growth is, well then the property's overpriced. So that's fairly easy. Now what happens then is if you're a short-term trader, you may not really care if there's a bubble as long as you can ride it, until before it pops, right? That gets very, very tricky. And people who can do that are very, very good at it. I would not consider myself to be good enough to do that. Moreover, there's a significant amount of emotion involved in a bubble, and we all remember the phrase irrational expectations. People ask me all the time, how come you economists couldn't predict the housing bubble? Well, how come you couldn't predict when it would burst? A lot of us thought there was a bubble, but we couldn't predict when it was burst because it's kind of like asking a person to predict what a crazy man will do next. If I could predict what he's going to do, by definition, he's not crazy, right? So that's the hard part when it comes to a bubble, is predicting when it will pop and just how far it will go.
So that's a good answer. I like that, and that's the right answer. And I'm actually I didn't know what answer you were going to give. I'm a firm believer in exactly what you just said, just from the nature of markets that I'm, intertwined with as well. Is that like people were like, well, when's it going to happen? I said, I don't know exactly. Are we in one? I think, from what I see, yeah. I mean, it's closer to. I would say right now we're closer to the top than a bottom. That's all I can say. And then where's it going to go? You're right. That's a really good way to put it. A crazy man. The only thing you can count on is him being crazy. You don't know what he's going to do, but you can look at him and go, yep, that's crazy. And that's what a bubble is. Yep, that's a bubble. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what he's going to do. But I know it bursts. That's the one thing you can count on. So that's Kevin Gillen's take on a bubble, ladies and gentlemen. As you guys know, you can contact me, Ian, at hardmoneybankers.com. Kevin, if I understand correctly, if I go to Google and I Google Lindy housing reports, I can get all of your reports and download them as well as... Is that correct?
Yeah, they're on Drexel's website. They're free. You don't have to register for it or anything like that.
Get the information if you're in this business, or email Kevin at kevin.c.gillen, Gillen, @drexel.edu.